Hi, everybody. It's Alison from the Law School Toolbox and the Bar Exam Toolbox. I'm here with Lee, and we're here for yet another update on the California bar situation. Hey, Lee, how are you feeling today, April 17th, for the record?
For the record, I would have thought by April 17th, we would either not need so many updates or we would have so many answers. But unfortunately, we don't. Although it sounds like maybe answers are coming. I don't know. We're hopeful.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. So, people are continuing to meet. They're continuing to talk about stuff. We do have a little bit more information about, for those who aren't familiar, if that's anyone, the February California bar exam was a big old mess. And there were messes across the board, from the content all the way to people just not being able to take the exam or showing up in person and things not working. So anyway, I guess it's the board of trustees decided that we have to have the exam in person, but it's still not going to be the standard kind of NCBE administered exam. So they have decided they've gotten rid of Meazure Learning, everyone's least favorite company from February. A lot of problems. They're going with ExamSoft, but people are going to have to show up in person and do ExamSoft. And they, at least at this meeting a couple of weeks ago, pending approval, had some insight locations. So if somebody is planning to take the July bar, you need to be on the lookout for when you're going to take it. And also ultimately make sure that you have a computer that ExamSoft will work on.
Yeah. And at least ExamSoft is more of a known commodity. We've had issues with ExamSoft in the past, but nothing like Meazure Learning. So they're looking great. All those ExamSoft problems, who remembers those?
Yeah, I feel like anybody who used ExamSoft in law school has a story at least about, my computer crashed, ExamSoft crashed. But it was a little more intermittent than, the entire state just can't log on for an entire hour because we're basically having a denial of service attack because, we didn't plan on having, 5,000 people trying to log in at the same time. So anyway, maybe that will go a little more smoothly. Fingers crossed on that. But stay tuned. If you have not gotten word about where you might be able to take the exam, you definitely want to be paying attention to that.
Yes.
So the other news from kind of the state side, I guess we're having a meeting tomorrow on April 18th with the Committee of Bar Examiners. And that's where they're going to get into lots of nitty-gritty around score adjustments, both for people who did the California bar experiment, where you tested.
When was that?
I can't even remember.
November, I believe.
Yeah.
Early November.
Yes. Yes, it does say actually in this press release for November experiment participants. So if you've been waiting with bated breath for months and months since November to find out if you're going to get some more points on the exam and how many, well, tomorrow might decide your fate.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. They're at least going to start discussing it. They're a psychometrician. I'm not sure. Is that even a word? Anyway, this guy is going to present his initial grading results for the February exam. Very exciting. As well as recommended score adjustments for the experiment participants from November. And also recommendations on scoring adjustments for impacted February exam test takers. So that's going to be, I think, a really exciting meeting, and a lot of interesting stuff will probably come out of it.
Yeah. I'm always amazed when they think they can do all these things in one meeting, but maybe they can. I don't know. The last one I attended didn't feel like they could hit everything, but hopefully, because these decisions need to be made. It is almost late April. We are very few months away from the July bar. We have students waiting for results in a matter of weeks from this February exam. So they need to decide what they're going to do about it because people need to start studying for July.
Right. Yeah. If you didn't pass in February, which I feel like would be really hard to determine. Sometimes people call us and they say, well, I'm pretty sure I didn't pass.
Yeah.
And they have a reason for it. And we're like, you didn't show up to a day.
You were throwing up in the bathroom for half of the tests. You probably didn't have a chance to pass. You didn't finish a couple of the questions. Okay, that's, but this is trickier. It's hard to know.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone can have a clear sense that they did pass. How could you possibly feel confident if you took the February exam that you passed? Who even knows if your score or your essays were uploaded? That's the level of incompetence that we're talking about.
Yeah. I know. So hopefully they can get these answers so folks can plan ahead. But I do have some concerns that, moving forward, we're like, do we have a full plan for July, and are we just going to have another cluster after July because something else is going to happen? I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe we shouldn't futurecast at this point. We should just stay in the present with what we have going on. But I do have concerns for folks who are sitting for July that there could be more uncertainty after that.
Right, because I think the idea that, you have to go and take it in person, well, that didn't really solve anyone's problem with Meazure Learning because people did go in person and still couldn't take the exam properly. Everybody in the state had to wait, I think, at one point for an hour to get logged on. I mean, so yes, maybe ExamSoft is going to work better. Maybe the proctors will be better trained than apparently they were in February. But yeah, this is not just like they're reverting back to a known entity and going with that. This is still like, we're in a different whole new world. And hopefully it works out better. But who knows?
Well, because now might be a good time to talk about the disaster that are the Kaplan questions, which, I think we have to thank folks like Mary Basic who are out there still talking about this, because I believe that Meazure Learning's their problems have really eclipsed this major problem that the multiple choice questions are a disaster, and they're still planning to use them in July.
Right. So a brief recap for those who aren't familiar. For the California February bar exam, a few months beforehand, they decided, hey, we don't really want to pay the NCBE for these questions that they've used for years and they validated and whatnot. So we're just going to make our own. In fact, we're not going to make them. We're just going to hire Kaplan, a bar prep company, to write questions. And, there were some obvious copyright problems. And apparently they've kind of tried to separate the people writing the questions from anyone who knows anything about anything.
And they wouldn't let professors come in and validate them. I mean, it was really bad. I actually had no true appreciation for how messy this got until I started attending some of those meetings and reading some of the things that were coming out. The people were being invited and disinvited to participate in validating the questions. I mean, it is so shady. Anyway, go ahead. I interrupted the description of the dumpster fire. So I'll let you go back to it.
At some point, California released some sample questions. They were bad. I mean, some of them were definitely wrong. We had tutors read them and say, hey, this is not a correct statement of the law. And other people have, looked into them more and found that not only were a lot of the questions that they had as samples pretty bad, apparently also they reused some from the experiment because people recognized them. But they also have pretty clearly expanded the scope of the content that can be tested. They released a content map on February 6th, which was literally weeks before the exam, that had pretty substantial modifications, which they A, had said they weren't going to do, and B, is apparently a violation of, let's see, the Business and Professions Code, section 6046.6, which requires 2 years of notice of a substantial change in the training or preparation required to pass the bar exam.
And what is the organization that holds lawyers to their standards of professional conduct? Oh, that's right, the bar.
Right. And apparently in the Kaplan contract, they also promised they would not expand the testable areas of law, which it is fairly clear they have done. We will link to this very useful article by Dean Mary Basic and Professor Katie Morin of your alma mater, the University of San Francisco. Anyway, they have gone through in detail, bless them for this, and figured out that they have noted 55 rules that California added to the content map. So I think if people are preparing, you need to be asking questions of your test prep provider about, are they teaching you these rules? Because if not, that's going to be a big problem.
Yes, because I have not heard that the test prep companies are doing any sort of different multiple choice prep for the California exam. Because everybody uses the released NCBE questions.
Right.
That's what everybody uses. I mean, let's just all be honest. We all license them. We all use them. And
in fact, this article tells you there are 1,991 released MBE questions available.
Yes. So that's a lot. That's a lot more than what, 20, 25. What was that first batch that they put out?
25, I think.
25 of riddled with mistakes. I have not found any release questions riddled with mistakes.
No, I mean, they literally set out a red line, like shortly before the exam, of the questions they had provided. It should not be necessary.
No. So that's, bad. So I think that everybody needs to talk to their bar providers. The bar providers hang out at your law schools, and the law schools have contracts with them. So hopefully you have like bar, professors or deans that are advocating for you on behalf of the students with these bar review providers. But if not, then you should be asking your reps and saying, like, where are my practice questions for the California bar?
Yeah, because I'm just looking at this article right now, and apparently Kaplan actually released 50 questions, not 25. So 50, and approximately 20% of those test on these 55 newly added rules, with the remainder covering the other 3,000 plus rules. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I mean, they're making the point that like these rules might not have even been covered in law school because nobody knew they were going to be on the bar.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And were the answer choices right? Oh, we don't know because they wouldn't let anyone view them. I mean, I think that's another fundamental problem. It's like, there's not even confidence that the answer choices reflected what that law was.
No, I mean, I talked to people who said, they remembered a property question. And it had, the typical like Bob buys so-and-so from Sue, and, they go to Dan and they do these, and they like halfway through the question, they just switched to using pronouns, and it wasn't clear who the person was in the question doing these things. That's crazy.
It's so crazy. I mean, it is really hard to write solid multiple choice questions. They have to be vetted. They have to be vetted.
I mean, we had to do it because we made our practice of the week program right when the Civ Pro questions were added to the MBE. And so we had to draft all the ones we used, and it took a long time. We had to get our team involved. I mean, they went through multiple rounds of iterations. Like, it is difficult.
It is very difficult. And we had a bunch of bar experts all get together and read them and critique the questions. And we are just one small bar review provider. I mean, and honestly, if a bar professor had called me and asked to validate my questions, I wouldn't have said no. I would not have said no.
No, because probably, I mean, there could have been mistakes even after we looked at all. Like, it's difficult. This is hard to do. You cannot do it at the last minute. And they're doing it again at the last minute. And are they going to use some of those same questions? Because I don't know. I mean,
are they drafting a whole nother set?
That's what I'm saying. Like, are they just starting from scratch? Like, it's the whole thing is crazy. Like, people may recognize questions that they saw before because if you fail, you may have to take them again. Are they doing it all from scratch? Like, who knows?
And I don't believe we know if it's online yet or on paper, the MBE
portion. That's a good question. Yeah,
I believe that was still an open question.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, wow, this has been a stress-inducing conversation. So I'm trying to create a space for us to find some grounding. So I guess the good news is that hopefully we will be back soon after this meeting tomorrow. I'm sure that some of these decisions will be made in a closed session. So I'm sure
I would imagine
that the information will kind of dribble out. But we will definitely come back with an update with hopefully some answers and directions. We are talking to a lot of people who are already studying for July. So I think that if you are studying for July, you should definitely be contacting your bar providers and asking how they're going to deal with this additional law that is tested in California. And if they don't know, ask them when they will know.
I don't know. That one of those like mayhem. I'm like, when the world is mayhem.
Yeah, I don't think I ever learned mayhem.
I was like, I don't even know.
No. That's in criminal law, right? I mean, I have not.
I don't know. Who knows? Okay. Yeah. But no, I mean, we're definitely having conversations with, vendors that we work with saying like, hey, are you going to do an appendix? Like what is happening here?
Yeah. So that is step one. Step two is, again, to control the drama. It's hard. Reddit, very, a lot of robust discussions happening, a lot of panic, especially if you're already studying. Just please keep studying. Try not to get too wrapped up in the chaos. And if you're waiting for results, I think that's the group of people I'm most worried about, because I think that it must be stressful, as it is always, to the nth degree, because there is so much uncertainty. So I think if you really think that this didn't go well, it might be time to start spending a little bit of energy looking towards what's coming down the pipe. If you're working, are you going to try and work and study? We even talk to folks sometimes who are waiting for results, who we want to learn what their prep options could be, just so they feel like, they're able to pull the trigger really quickly if they do find out bummer news. Sometimes doing things to prep for the worst can make you feel a little bit better. I don't know if anything's going to make you feel better, but I guess that's something else that you could do.
Yeah. And I mean, I think at least California has dropped the idea of just outsourcing the essay questions too. I haven't heard anything about that for a little while.
Yeah, well, I think they have some more questions in the bank, but I think they're going to run out. I don't know. I'm not having a lot of faith in what they're doing. I know that, a lot of people have been really critical about some of the leadership, on the committee of bar examiners and the trustees on the board of trustees of the California Bar. I mean, I think there are some individuals that seem to be really advocating for these applicants, but I'm a little concerned about who's really steering the ship on this one. I don't really know. Yeah. And I haven't heard anything from the California Supreme Court either. They basically said, you got to do it in person. And then so far, that's kind of it.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have some more information soon. Hopefully a lot of this will get nailed down. I mean, I would hope that they would have all of this nailed down by the time they release results.
Which is very soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So hang in there, everybody.
Hang in there. We'll be back.
We'll be back to talk more about the California Bar Exam when they give us some more to talk about. And if you have any personal questions, feel free to reach out to us at barexamtoolbox.com and we would be happy to help.